Expect a few more people, but obviously the weather's kept them away from logging into this webinar. So we do appreciate you guys making it in this, the auto routing of ducts in Revit MEP. My name's Chris Porter. I'm sitting here with Tony Crawford.
Good morning, everybody.
And we're in the penthouse of CAD-1's office on the top floor.
That's true. It is the top floor.
Yep. We have a great view of a field outside. So again, we do appreciate you guys logging into this. So just give you guys a heads up. We will be doing a little change up as far as tech support goes right after Thanksgiving. All of our technicians will be at Autodesk University, so there'll be no tech support phone calls. Everything will be via email, and if you try and call, they will tell you that as well. So if you have any tech support questions just the week after Thanksgiving, just understand that you'll just have to send it to tech.support@cad-1.com. So we appreciate you guys being cool about that. So.
Alrighty, now the standard screen. If you, hopefully you can hear us. If you can hear us, would you raise your hand? If you cannot hear us, which I always find ironic, but you know, you have to change to use mic and speakers or use the telephone if the mic and speakers are not working. Are you seeing hands there, Chris?
Yep, Jason.
Alrighty, and I do have a couple of polls I'm going to show. Let's see if these work. There we go. It should be just let me know what's your primary discipline, so I know what the audience is. I'm going to look most of the people listening today are architectural engineers, maybe FM or other. I only have like 5 options, so I didn't put everything on there. Go ahead and click whatever you're on, and it looks like a ton of MEP people. So I'm going to go ahead and close that one out, and I'll bring up the next poll. Let's see. So a couple architecture, a couple other, but by them large, it's MEP. And next question: how long have you been using Revit? Now, is Revit still fairly new? Just on the first few projects, or you've been using it a little while? Get to that stage. Okay, so for everybody's new users or old users. Okay, mostly new users. Okay, that's good for me to know. And I'll give you a few more seconds on this one.
Just to give you guys a heads up, we do offer Revit MEP classes here at CAD-1, and hit me up on that one. We'll get you guys scheduled out for that. I think from what I understand from the people who've showed up to class, that we're one of the only companies in North America that actually offer Revit MEP training. We do it on a monthly, so make sure you hit us up for that, or hit me up for and I can get you scheduled for one of those classes. So.
Yeah, go ahead and click if you've tried this generate tool before. Okay, the polls are changing. At first, nobody had. Now it's a little more evenly. Oh yeah, I was going to say to Chris's comment, I've had students on the Revit MEP classes from California, from Texas.
Texas, yeah.
I forget where else. Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Colorado, but plenty of other places too.
Yeah, a lot of Wyoming.
Oh, Nevada. Actually, did a bunch in Nevada.
South Dakota.
Oh.
Yeah, people come down from South Dakota
I forgot about that.
Yep.
So okay, most people have not used this auto-generate tool, but some have spent some time working in it. All right, so I'm going to close these polls out and jump to the next screen. All righty, so hopefully everybody can hear me by now. And I'm waiting. There it goes. So what we're going to look at today, Revit has the capability to automatically create layouts of ducts, transition elbows, everything you need to connect air terminals in your project, from the air terminals to the equipment. It doesn't do accessories like fire dampers. It does not do dampers. And I can bring it up in Revit just to show you where I'm looking at. And oh, actually, I can't show you for just a moment till I get to another screen, because Revit has context-sensitive tools. So bear with me 1 second. Oh, come on! I'm just watching the screen, and there's a lag. Oh, why are you being difficult? There we go. That's the screen I was trying to get to. That's what I get for watching the wrong screen. I'm watching the attendee screen.
Did you know that the mother duct doesn't require Revit MEP to align her ducts?
Why is that, Chris?
I don't know. Just have you ever seen ducts walk?
Oh, because she has all her ducts in a row?
Correct.
Yeah, I thought you were going to give that one.
Yeah, absolutely good for you.
So anyway, the bottom line is Revit can generate these duct layouts for you, but keep in mind that Revit, it's a computer. It doesn't know what you know. You still have to be the designer. You still have to be the engineer. You still have to know that you know, there's going to be an exhaust hood in this area, so you have to move around that. You know that the beams are in certain places. They're going to change, and the designs are going to change. In fact, you might find this tool that this tool is good for creating some of the layouts, but maybe the more complex layouts, you know, you'll have to do manually. Sometimes what I've found is I'll start off with this, and I'll let it do most of them, even if it just does half of them, and then I can go back in and tweak the ones that need tweaking. Let's see. Yeah, so it's not an easy button. You still need to be the designer. You still need to be the engineer. So when is a good time to use this layout tool? You know, it can be used anytime. The tool works at any time in Revit, but maybe during the initial layout the first time, perhaps the DD phase. What was I going to say?
That's where you want to start doing it.
Yeah, sorry, I completely lost my train of thought. I'm getting holiday-itis, I think. So looking at Thanksgiving coming up on the calendar. So a common practice, you know, for however how long, and every company is a little bit different, has been to lay out mechanical equipment first, the big pieces first, and then the main ducts, getting with the bigger pieces, getting smaller and smaller. You might want to just consider, when using Revit, maybe do it in a different order, almost a reverse order. Start with the air terminals, and I'll show you why. Let's say you just get the DD phase. I'm going to bring up Revit. So I have a building here, and you can see it's got a couple of wings. We're just going to focus on one of the wings. You can see I've actually got quite a few systems laid out here. We're just going to focus on one of the floors. So I'm down in I think I'm in the north. I forget if it's the north wing or south wing, but I'm on the first floor, and I've got a few rooms left to go. This one is actually in several phases. Some of the systems are completely done. Some of them only have the ducts, and some of the rooms don't have anything. So let's take a look at this. So right now, let's say I'm going to focus on the rooms that don't have anything. These spaces that don't have any ducting in them yet, no air terminals, no anything. I can start to do some preliminary airflow calculations. Let me bring up, I have a schedule. Let's say I already have this in my template. So as soon as I start the project, I already have it. So what I've done is I've added spaces. Oops. See, this only happens when people are watching. You know, the more no, I wasn't. The more people are watching, the more likely I am to hit the wrong button.
I'm staring at him from the side right
Yes.
now, so it's making him really nervous.
It is. I had to go run to the bathroom right before this. So I have spaces in. I started off doing spaces. I have my rooms. I got the model from the architect. So I have walls. Maybe I have ceilings. Maybe not. You know, and I know that these walls are going to change. The rooms are going to change because they always do. Maybe we're still in DD phase, but anyway, I have spaces in everywhere. So what I've done is I've created an airflow check, and this is already in my template. So as soon as I start a project, this is already in there. I put in the columns, told Revit what to use for the columns, and Revit will fill in the rows for me. So let's look at the bottom. I have rooms 2007, 2008. I have rooms down here. I have them set. They're classroom. They have numbers. They're set to be heated and cooled. I can set those to be heated only, cooled only, unconditioned, ventilated. You know, maybe a kitchen only has air conditioning. Maybe it doesn't need the heating. I don't know. Maybe a server room doesn't have air conditioning. So I can set whatever I need on that. I am going to close that. Bear with me 1 second. I meant to do that sooner. Yeah, close out of that. So I have an airflow in this room, and that is actually reading it. It's the actual supply airflow. It's reading that off of the air terminals in the room, of which there are none. So my airflow on this one is 0. Now I've got a calculated supply airflow or a specified airflow that I've told it either train trace or another analysis program from my Excel, from wherever, from another source. I've said this room should have a target, and this is based on square footage. You know, right now it's just a calculated number of 516 CFM. Well, since I have 0, this last column, this airflow check, I have it set to be red if the airflow is less than the calculated, less than the supply airflow. So these are automatically in red. If I change the airflow in this room, which I cannot do from this field, I can change the specified or the okay, I can change the specified but not the calculated airflow in here. So let's take a look at how would I do that in Revit. Oops, keep doing that. There we go. There's the right one. In Revit, I need to add an airflow to these rooms, I need to do it by adding air terminals. So what I like to do, so I'm going to be focusing on these two rooms, Classroom 2009 and Classroom 2007. I'm going to be focusing on those rooms today. The tool I like to use is I have air terminals already in this project. I don't even need to know what they are. I'm like, I just want to match what's in the next room because I've already made that decision. That decision's already been made by me or somebody. Maybe I'm even joining the project today because there's a deadline tomorrow. Whatever. I just know I need more of those. So I right-click on that. I'm going to do Create Similar. I believe there's also a keyboard shortcut on that. So I'm going to place these in here. I'm going to place them on the reference plane first floor ceiling because if you notice, there's no ceiling in there yet. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Maybe we're still in the DD phase. They haven't been added to the architect's background model yet. For whatever reason, maybe I just would prefer to place this on the reference plane, which is not uncommon for mechanical. To instead of using the ceiling, and even if it exists, instead of using the ceiling, put in your own reference plane. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put an air terminal on this reference plane.
So can you later on take that reference plane and move your reference plane to whatever where they lay out their grid for their ceiling tiles?
Yep,
Can you merge those two?
I would manually move it to match to be in the same place.
Okay. But it gives you a point of reference where everything's on that needs to be on that.
Yes, and it gives me a point of reference that I can control. I have the reference plane. I don't have control over the ceiling because it's not in my model, but I do have control over the reference plane.
Perfect.
So for right now, I don't have a ceiling. If you notice, if I hover in line, Revit will snap to be in line with the other air terminals that are already in there. So if nothing else, I have that much.
Oh, snap.
It's not snap. It's, I don't know, snap because it's Revit.
Here's a question for you. If say you're working with duplicate rooms, sorry folks, I'm going to jump in here and there because I'm inquisitive. If you're working with identical rooms, can you just copy and paste those terminals into the next room? If it's the same size, same layout, say you're working on a hotel and it's the exact same thing, every single room, can you do multiple and just move them over?
You can. And that's curious. It always, yes, you could definitely, you could do a copy, you could do an array, you could do groups, but then you'd need to ungroup them later.
To create a system?
Yes, we will
Gotcha.
actually be creating a system a little bit later. How are we doing on time? Oh, we're okay. And earlier, a moment ago, we were talking about the reference planes. I'm going to show you the reference plane that I put in there because I think I need to lower it just a hair. So let me find my elevation. Oh, actually, I was going to use a section, but I'm going to move this down. It's always fun when 1 inch. All right, let's try it again. When something works when I'm practicing, and then when I get an audience, it's not working. So I was not getting the airflow I was looking for. So I'm going to move this down. There we go, 0 foot 1 inch. And something didn't work right again. See, I told you it's the having an audience. All right, I'm just going to nudge it down because really. Now let's see if I have an airflow in this room. So I have air terminals placed in there. The air terminals have airflow, so my room should be reading still 0 CFM. Why is it still 0?
Because nothing's tied to it yet?
No, it should be doing it automatically. Like this one says 600 CFM in the adjacent room. Let me just make sure I have.
Because you don't have a return air?
No. Oops. I have. That's not it. I have airflow in there. Supply air, reference plane, 8 foot 9. Yeah, that should. Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to do something else.
Do a different room.
Yeah, I'm going to do a different room. In fact, I'm going to do what Chris suggested here. I'm just going to copy these. So I'm copying them from this room. I'm just going to use that as a reference point. Copying to my other room, 2009. Place it in there. And now let's see what my space schedule looks like. Oh, look, that one's working. 2009. 2009 here. There's the room. And here's my air terminals. I have air terminals in there. They're showing up in the room. And they have airflow. And because the airflow is 150 CFM each, that gives me a total of 600 CFM, which exceeds the predetermined calculated target value of 552 by 48 CFM. You can see it on the right. So now it's no longer red. So this room is good. It has sufficient, and it's not too much. It's not way out of line. So I have sufficient airflow in room 2009. And all I did was add air terminals in there. Let's close this one up. I put in these 4 air terminals. I haven't connected up to equipment. I haven't connected any ducting. So I can do some basic airflow checks, even at an early stage. And I may not want to connect up the ducts at this point because, as everyone's familiar with, things change. The walls might change. The client says, oh, the budget's too much. I want to have, if we do the building half the size but have the same number of rooms, the same scope, well, can we do it for half the money? Yeah, I'm sure you've run into that, where things change. So the walls might change. This might change from a classroom to a storage room to a server room. It might change from one room into 2 or 2 rooms into 1. Anyway, there's going to be changes, so I'll have to change my layout. But at least at this point, I can do some of the numbers. I can do some of the calculations, without having to worry about the changes in the future. I can deal with those, once the designs settle down a little bit. Well, it was working yesterday. Sorry, somebody had a question. It said that my space setting is too low. Where's my height? Upper limit is level 2. Now that should be high enough. But that is definitely a common reason that the airflow is not showing up.
Is your space set too low? Yes.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if everybody could read that, but
yeah,
thank
sorry.
you, Sheila.
Yes. And that's a mistake that I've made frequently too. But at least I haven't changed the spaces, and it was working yesterday. So I think it's the room calculation point, and I just don't want to take the time to dive into that right now.
During the webinar.
Yes, exactly. 5 seconds after we finish, I'll be able to fix it.
Or it'll start working.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. So welcome to live webinars. Okay. So we have the spaces in there. There we go. So we began with air terminals, and this allows us to place air terminals, allows us to do some basic equipment, basic calculations. Maybe you want to do this at TD phase, whatever the project calls for, whatever your company practices are, or whatever is compatible with your practices, because you might need to change those just a little bit. So the benefits of doing the auto routing, of starting this way, of starting with just the air terminals, as I can do, as I said, the basic airflow assignments once the air terminal is in place. And I can delay actually putting in the ducts until the rooms have settled down until they stop changing. So let's take a look at the next one. So to do this, okay, I've already taken a look at this. I always get ahead of myself a little bit. To do basic room airflow assignments, I need this much. I need to have air terminals placed in the rooms, which I just did, and I need to have the Revit space element placed in the rooms. So I can bring back Revit. So that's what we just did here. I can do some tags. So I did the tag command, which is annotation, TG, tag by category, and that's going to tag these. Let's do a short leader. I'm going to put a short little leader on these air terminals, and it's showing me airflow, and that's the terminal number, which is not really important at this point. So 150 CFM, 150 CFM, 150, they're all 150 CFM, and that meets my requirements. Let's see. So I've toggled my windows, I've tiled my windows. Let's see if I can get a little more room here. Oh, stop it. There we go. I can go down to room 2009. It tells me it's sufficient by 48 CFM, and I have 150 CFM. What I can do, I can change this at least 3 different places. So this first air terminal, I can change the properties of it from 150 CFM to, let's say, 125 CFM. I can change it in the properties palette for this air terminal. Bam, it changed in my floor plan. I can change it in the tag. I don't even have to go to the properties. I can make this one 125 CFM by changing the tag because it's reading the same field in the same database. Revit's almost more database than drawing. So 125, 125. Go to my schedule. Oh, look, those have already changed to 125, 125. I can change this other one. See in the lower left, it's highlighted in my floor plan, 125 CFM. And it changes everywhere. It changes in the property, it's changing in the floor plan, changes in my schedule. Oh, and because of that, would you look at that, this room is now red by 27 CFM. because it's been changing the same properties. Where am I going? 125, 125. That's giving me the total airflow as 525 is less than the 550. So this is a quick check. I can do it, even without the floor plan. Maybe you're working with some, the designer is not.
What if you have a space and air terminal with a CFM, but the space doesn't list a specified supply, airflow, or calculated is not computed?
Oh, okay. I don't want to dive into that too much because that could be a much longer discussion, but I'll show you really quickly. So let me finish my...
Can't you calculate your own?
You can.
A basic calculation without the engineer of the space, right?
Yeah, and you can type that in. Revit has 3 different... okay, let me finish this one thing and then I'll dive into that for just a moment. So the bottom line is that I can change this here in my schedule. 150 CFM. Oh, that's really close. It's only 2 CFM short. That might be good. In fact, it might be very good. Well, as soon as I run this next step. So I can do it all right here. You can bring up, maybe you've got an older, knowledgeable engineer, very, very knowledgeable, knows his stuff, but doesn't know Revit. He can work just in this spreadsheet, in this view, in this spreadsheet type of view in the schedule, and just change the values. I'm in room 2009. I've got these diffusers. I can be looking at a paper floor plan next to me and just change these numbers based on what's there. 150 CFM, and now I'm good. So this is one way to do it without really having to spend much time learning Revit. The calculated value. So, okay, let me show you what Revit's doing here. I've got a space. A space is a very useful element in Revit, especially for HVAC, for mechanical. It does a little bit for lighting calculations and not really much of anything for plumbing. The Revit architecture and Revit structural don't have the space element. They have rooms, but they don't have spaces. And they're similar items, but Revit MEP has both. And if you have Revit one box, as I call it, everybody has everything. So the architects have mechanical tools, mechanical has architectural tools, everybody's got everything. So it's in there, but when spaces don't provide much benefit to anyone other than mechanical and some benefit to electrical. So what's in the spaces, I have, for my mechanical flow, for this category, I have specified supply airflow, calculated supply, and actual. You notice the second 2 are grayed out. I can only change the specified. The calculated can be done a couple different ways. It can be imported from another program, such as Train Trace or several others, or it can be done within Revit, and that's what I'll demonstrate here because I don't even have Train Trace or DOE2 or anything installed on my computer here. And the actual, the third category, that's the one that's actually reading it from the air terminals in the space. And that's where I was having trouble in this earlier space. I'm gonna have to check into that once I'm not live on the air. Okay, so let's look at this space. I have a calculated value. Well, right now calculated and specified are the same. That's the way this one's set up at 552. So let's take a look at that. And I'm even going to do a tag of that one. I'm going to do another room tag. So I could find it in ribbon, but I'm just going to do a create similar because I'm going to put another room tag in here. Not a space tag, sorry. But this one I want space tag plus actual airflow. This actual airflow is the 575, so it's reading the value from the rooms. That's from the air terminals. There we go, it's 575 on the left. That's the same one. If I change these, I can change them. There we go. Whoops. In the database, I can change the properties. Why are you not liking me? It's because there's people watching. Okay, we're just going to change this airflow over here in the properties from 125 to 150, and watch what happens to my actual. The tag in there for the actual value in the classroom, it went up because that's reading the values from the air terminal. Okay, so that one's the actual. The other values, I'm going to switch this tag, so now I have the actual and the specified. Okay, at least my actual is above right now. I can change it back. But let's see what happens. Remember that number 552, and this might take just a moment to go to the analyze. I'm going to run this, where am I going? Heating and cooling loads. And while that's running, I'll have a few seconds to stall. So let me bring it up really quickly. and I'm just going to hit run. Remember I'm going to set it to simple so it goes a little faster. And calculate that value. So if you remember the 552 that was there, that number should change.
So that addition to that other question works is if it should, but my spaces are not showing the actual airflow, so nothing else is being shown either.
Okay, there's a couple reasons that the spaces might not be showing it any, so I'm assuming they're showing 0, right? I'm not showing the actual airflow.
So can't you create your own space, like just a mock-up space? Yes. You can, like, say you're in a big room and there's no walls there, but you can actually create
it needs to be a bounded area, like completely enclosed, to put a space in there. Well, I can create a space, a placeholder space that's not placed yet, and then I can start assigning some values. But I don't think that's what's happening here.
say a giant entryway where you know there's going to be 2 different areas. I thought you could create, you could say this area was a seating area, will have this much CFM. So can't you create some kind of a mocked up area that you can base off of space?
You can put in artificial space boundary lines.
So wouldn't that work if he's not being able to do that? Can he just make an artificial boundary line and then try it again?
You could. I don't think that's what's causing, because I've got the same problem right here. So where's my one thing, and that's maybe the most common, is the space is not going high enough. It's not going all the way up to the ceiling. So I have a base is level 1. That one's fixed because it's placed on level 1. That's my first floor. The upper and the base has an offset. There you go. Base offset is 0, and you probably want that unless you have a raised floor or some. I can't think of any reason not to. I have an upper limit is level 2 with 0 offset. So I could make it level 2 only come down 1 foot below level 2, or I could make it go up 1 foot above level 2. But that's my upper limit, is the second level, second floor, which is my level in there. So that should be going high enough, because what it does, let's see if I can, bear with me one moment, find my section, make it a little bigger. It's not, I can't do that. Just unhide the category, drop my light bulb. So I have a section in here, that's why I turned that on. I'm going to go to this section and see what my reference plane is at, see where my ceilings are at. I'm just going to hide a couple of these categories really quick. So hover, tab, I'm not working well, there's people watching. Hover, tab is not letting me. There we go. That's one of a new feature that I'm still not getting used to that. I'm going to hide that category. That's probably all I want to do for right now, because I need to have this reference plane in there. I need to have the levels in there. So we're looking at, all right, we're going to move this into the real room that we're looking at, which is that room. So why is this room not showing any airflow? I have the air terminals. Here's my air terminal, supply diffuser. It's actually hosted to this reference plane, and I even moved the reference plane down into the room. It's artificially low. It's too low. This is actually, the design is wrong, but I was trying quickly to fix that. The air terminals have to touch the space. There's my space. It's the blue void, the airspace within the room, bounded on all sides by bounding elements such as walls, floors, ceilings. It can go up to see where the grip is at. That's my level 2. It can go up that high, or whatever it hits first, a ceiling, or it's at the limit that I've set is what stops the spaces. And space is enclosing my air terminal. I've got grips. I've got, I think I can think of is let's give that a try, actually. Room 2000. So, oh, well, that's silly. My air terminals are upside down. That was what was causing the problem with me. They would being the airflow was being read, would have been read in the plenum space instead of in the room space. So that's what I get for getting in a hurry. So I need to go into my floor plan. let's watch what happens. So right now, my space. So Jason asked a question, it's not showing the airflow. Could be reading in the wrong space, could be reading in the plenum instead of reading in the room. The space element might not be high enough. Phasing, I believe, has to be the same. So if there's any phasing going on with the spaces versus the air terminals, I believe those have to match. I'm trying to think of what else could cause the room not to be reading the spaces. So right now I've got my space, I've got one of them fixed. It's giving an actual airflow of 200 because I've only fixed one of those. And I don't know which one it is. So I'm going to flip these other two, just hitting the flip grip, selecting the air terminal, flipping it. I call it the flip grip. It's really flipping it above the host, about its host. And now my room should be giving me about 600 actual, okay, 400 actual. Anyway, so at least it's working. I don't want to spend too much more time on that. I need to keep moving along. But that's what was causing my error because of the way that I hosted them, and I was in a hurry and put them on a reference plane. And I was in a floor plan instead of a ceiling plan. Something to keep in mind, you might want to place them while you're in a ceiling plan. Place air terminals while you're in a ceiling plan. Okay, so where was I? So to do basic airflow assignments, you need to have spaces in the room, which we had already, and you need to have air terminals placed in the room, and that's what we just went down that road. And then, remember I mentioned the airflow was 552, I think, was the specified. Oh, now that I ran that calculation, it says this room should be 796. So I must have changed some things along in there. Let's see what this space is. Then there's several things that this airflow depends on, that the calculations depend on. One of them is the space type. So again, I'm selecting the space. And the space type is down here on the properties. The space type is set to building default, which I think in this case is classroom. So until you tell Revit, well, this room is a kitchen, this room is a classroom, this room is, so you have to tell it what the room is, and it will pull in the S-ray values for that room specifically. So right now it's just using the default value of building. Maybe this one is a classroom training room. I know, and sometimes I'll choose classroom penitentiary because, you know, depending on how long it's been since you've been in school, yeah, it might be to have the same feeling. So this says area per person, 250 BTU hours. If I choose another one, very similar values, I think a different occupancy schedule. So I'm going to say this room is a classroom. I could run my calcs again. Hopefully it won't take too long. I'm going to run, where are we going? Heating and cooling load, simple, hit calculate. So it was 552 before, and then it was 796, I believe. Let's see what it comes up with in just a moment. Now that I've changed just one parameter, but I've told it it's a different space type, which means it's pulling in different S-ray values for that space, which means it's going to have different airflow requirements. And I might have about 5 seconds. Should I ask Chris to stall for something? Tell another bad joke? Getting your ducks in a row?
No, that's all I have.
Okay. Okay. And so I ran the report. I'm not going to take the time to look at this. And the airflow went even higher as a classroom area. If I set this to be a dining or food preparation, I think it would be even higher yet. So it looks like I need to have more airflow in this room.
What if you set up as a doctor's office? Would the doctor be a quack?
Does he have his ducks in a row?
Ducks in his row.
Ducks in his room?
Yep.
Anyway.
Jason's probably laughing. He thinks I'm funny. Probably not.
Looking?
Yeah.
Sorry, is this being recorded? I hope
yes.
Oh,
yeah.
shoot. I better keep my mouth. Better be careful. Okay.
Sheila's laughing.
So to do basic airflow assignments, you need to have air terminals in the room and spaces in the room. And to do a little more with it, there's always more steps. There's more tweaking with there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want to create an HVAC system. So I'm building up. I need to have a system so that I can do my airflow requirements. So the next step is to create an HVAC system. Okay, so maybe we're getting a little farther through the process. I've got my air terminals in there, made at least one DD submission. Now I'm going to start creating a system, so I'm putting my equipment in there. So to do an HVAC system, I need to have air terminals. Okay, I already have those. Now I need to add the mechanical equipment. So let's go back to Revit. I have my air terminals in here. They're not assigned to any system yet. Good, I'm just verifying that. And so we have equipment. Oh, I was going to delete this before I started, but It's the same as the other equipment. It's an indoor air handling unit, horizontal chilled water. I've got a size on there. So I've placed some equipment in there, and I've placed some air terminals. That's what I need to create what in Revit is a system. In this case, it's a duct system. For electricals, it would be a circuit. Piping also has piping systems. You can do different supply return or hot water, domestic, cold, sanitary. In this case, I've selected one of my air terminals, any one of the air terminals, and when that's selected, on the top I have a context-sensitive toolbar. In case you hadn't already noticed, anything to the right of this gray line changes depending on what you have selected. I have an air terminal, so I have tools specific to that air terminal. Notice there's nothing electrical on there. There's no changing, I don't know, the font or the label or the leader. They're all related to the air terminal. So what I can do with that, one of those is a duct system. I can create a duct system because I have an air terminal selected. I'm going to show you a little shortcut. If I select all 4 of these, I can create a duct system, and I won't have to add those 4 later. I won't have to click specify. So it saves me, I think, 1 click, really, depending on how you do it. So it's going to be supply air. It gives me a default name. I'm going to name it, just for consistency, 01 SA. I think 12 was already used, so I'm going to name this one 13. If I check this box, it'll open up in the systems editor, which I actually don't need to do because I have selected all of those. So it might save me a couple clicks. Now you see the dotted line around there, the blue dotted line. That tells me these are in a system. In fact, what I have selected is not the air terminals. There's no physical elements. It's a system, duct air supply system. I've got a system name. I've got a few properties in there. There's some type properties. One of the things I can do once it's there is I can select equipment. So what are these things being fed by? And it works the same for electrical, plumbing. I can say these are the objects, and their parent or their feeder or their source is, and I can click on it. If I have all my settings right, good. These air terminals are now assigned to this VAV box. Now I have a system. Well, let me jump back to the slides for just a moment. So that's what it takes to generate a system. I have a systems browser, if you've not already seen that. Normally F9 will bring that up, but F9 brings up my e-pointer, so I can go through the user interface to show you the systems browser. I can look at my systems in here. I have mechanical, I have supply air, and oops, is it the last one? Oh, that's it. I happen to grab the right one. SA13, if I select it in my systems browser, you can see it's also highlighting in my floor plan. If I select my floor plan, I've got some systems browser. If I expand this, I have the same item. I can highlight it in the floor plan. I can highlight it in the systems browser because it's the same item. I can see my air terminals. Select them on the left. They're highlighted on the right. I can change the CFM here. So here's a 4th place where I could change the airflow. I can change this one. Oh, I lied. I can't change it here. I could go to the properties. I can see the properties, but I can't change it. So that's just kind of an FYI. It's really useful. It's more of a schematic, a connection diagram, hierarchy. I can't move anything in here. I can't place anything, but I can see a lot of value because I can see the interconnections, what's being fed by what. So I have this system, and to select that, if you haven't already played with it, hover, tab, click is your best friend. Hover over any part of the system, press tab, usually once. Often it grabs the system first. So let me jump back to my slides. So to do this, to create the system, which is what we just did, I need to have air terminals, and I need to have equipment, and they need to be compatible. If I have supply-only equipment, I can't add return air terminals. But for the most part, that should be pretty good. Now, to get to the meat of it, thank you for waiting, for watching all along to get to this part. Now I'm going to actually do the auto routing because this is not a long step. So I added a few other things. So to do the auto routing of the duct, I need to have duct systems. Well, we just created those, so let's go back to Revit and take a look. I have my duct system. I have it selected. And if you remember, it's context sensitive, so anything to the right is specific to whatever I have selected. In this case, now I have the option to generate a layout. So let's do that. I have it selected. I choose Generate Layout, and takes this in here, goes into sketch mode. I can see the big green check, the big red X. And let's see what it's got. Takes us right to the solutions. I can do a network, perimeter, intersections. Well, with the network, I have 6 different options. Hopefully you can see there's blue lines and green lines and a yellow line on my screen. With a network, I can toggle through the 6 different options. You see those single lines changing. And often it's the first one. You know what? I think this is the layout that I'm going to give it a try. Now, I know ahead of time, I know right now that I can see some lines are green. That's my branches. Some are blue. That's my mains. And there's a yellow, orange, gold one. Yellow, I'm going to call it yellow. That, unfortunately, tells me that Revit knows already there's going to be some error with that one. So something's not going to connect right. Well, got 8 warnings. Warnings you can ignore. Errors make you stop. Okay, open connections is not a big deal. Unable to make the run. Well, okay. That didn't turn out so well. And yes, that was intentional, in case you're wondering. Let me bring up a 3D view, and let's see what it really did. Repeat 3D views, not that. There's my 3D view. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, try and send that design to the field. Okay, I'm just wondering how many people have tried it and gotten this far and maybe gave up at this point and said, yeah, this is a horrible design. Well, okay, let me go back. I'm actually going to hit undo at this point. I'm going to do my layout. Undo my layout because that's obviously horrible. Let me come back. Window tile. Close a few of these things. There. Now I can watch it in 3D and in 2D.
I was just about to ask you if you could do it in 3D.
I like, yeah, it's for something like this. I really like to work in 2D, but watch what's happening in 3D. So let's see. We're trying to do the generated auto layout. So I need to have duct systems. Oh, and there is one other thing I should really take a look at. That's some settings. So how does Revit know where to place these things? So let me run back to Revit, and let's try this again. So I'm going to go back to my floor plan. I have a system, but before I do that, let's take a look at my mechanical settings, which I can get to with the flyout. There's a couple other places I can get to it, but this one's pretty quick and easy. MS, you can see on the screen if you're a keyboard person. And let me bring up my mechanical settings. So I have duct settings. I have conversions. Oh, well, look what's in there. For my ducts, for supply air, I have supply, return, and exhaust. For today, I'm just going to look at supply. Duct type for my main. Do I want my main to be round? It's taps. Let's go with rectangular. Radius, elbows, and taps. And the offset, let's make it 10 feet, I think is what I need to use. Okay, so let's take a look at the branch. Well, the branch was set to be rectangular. This one I want to be round. Round ducts. Let's make them short radius, more likely to fit. And let's make this offset, the same. And flex duct round. Okay, we're good there. It's 6 feet. 6 foot maximum length. It will do longer flex duct, but then it gives you a warning, warnings you can always continue to work with. I could make the same changes for supply and return. I'm just going to keep going for the sake of time. And I'm also going to show you one other place that I really want to check. I need to look at the duct, duct systems. So I'm going through my family browser on the left. Oops, way too far. Duct systems are in there. It's not a physical element. Oops. Supply, that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to look at the type properties of this because there's one thing in there that I know is wrong in this file. If you set these ahead of time in your template, then you shouldn't have to change these. But let's look at, did I go to the wrong place? I went to the wrong place. I need to look at flex duct. Basically, I need to specify my type of flex duct. D, E, F. I'm trying to remember my alphabet. Flex duct rectangular. I don't think I've ever used one of those. So let's take a look at the properties, type properties of my round flex duct. There we go. The preferred junction type is a tap or a T. I'm going to set this one to be a tap. And I'm also, actually, I think that's good in this case. And we may not even run into this because Sometimes I run into that when I do a bad design. So I've changed some settings. The main one is under mechanical settings. I've set a duct type, preference for mains, a type for rounds, and an elevation for branches. Elevations for my main, elevation for my branches, and a type for flex duct. So let's try this again. I'm going to select my system, hover, tab, click. Now I have the system selected, not the elements, but the system. Try the generate layout again. I'll give you the context sensitive tab in the ribbon. Generate layout takes me to sketch mode. Oh, that's better. I don't see any orange or yellow pieces because that's where Revit knows ahead of time that it's going to have some issues. So I'm looking at it in 3D. It's just giving me a single line, but that actually looks pretty good. Let's hit finish and see what it looks like. Let's take a look at this in 2D. Let's take a look at it in 3D. Okay, it still has some issues. I actually expected this one to work. Oh. All right, I got to take a look at my settings again because that's pretty sucky too.
Yeah, well, there's what it's looking like on your parts, your first two vents. It's not connecting properly to the top of those vents, so there might be an issue with the tops.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I'm going to look at my settings again. 10 foot, 10 foot. Oh, we might want to try and raise those up a little bit. Rectangular, elbows and taps. Round, 10 foot, 10 foot. Okay. Let me try these at 11 foot. Let's do 10 foot 6. All right, let's give this a try. Let me run my layout one more time. And this is to demonstrate why you need to do some setup ahead of time. It does take some time. It does take a little bit of planning. But once you're done, you should be good to go. All right, let's try this. Finish layout. I'm just going to go with the very first one. That's a little better. You can see it in 3D. It gave me one warning. I guess I should have left it up so you could see it before I close it out. It just said that there's an open connection at the end. That's not a problem. It just means there's no... Okay, we still have some issues with this one. But I lay out most of it. And this is maybe not the worst example, even though it didn't work. Holy crap. Okay, honestly, this usually works a bit better. In fact, when I did it yesterday, it worked fine. So it laid out some of the items for me. I can go in here and I can tweak these because I know, I'm still the designer. It put them in place for me. It did the connections. I'm just going to delete the parts that didn't work. I'm going to extend this a little farther. I'm going to put a cap on this one. All right. It's going to take a little tweaking. And we're going to... Oh. Okay. I was going to point out another important safety tip. But for the sake of time, I'll skip this. So I'm going to actually go in here and clean this up manually. It put in the pieces for me. I'm going to just drag and drop these to make a connection. Just going to drag the grips until they connect. I can also select the duct, and often it will give me a connect into button. In this case, it didn't. It depends on some of the details. So I had to fix that one manually. This one I'm going to have to go in there and just clean it up a little bit. So I've selected an item. I'm going to delete it. Now I'm going to connect these. But Revit's already placed them for me, so it's still saving me some time, even though I do have to reconnect these. And this is almost a worst case, because this one, there we go. I'm going to trim and extend the corner. Let's connect this duct to this duct, puts in the fittings for me. This one I need to take a look at in 3D. So, even though it did not lay it out nicely, I've cleaned this up pretty quickly. This one I need to come in here and fix this one for sure. I need just a little bit of an offset. So now you can see what was there. So it's still, even though this one wasn't perfect, let me drag this one out, and then I'm going to connect these, and it should automatically put in a transition for me. So that actually wasn't that bad, even though I was talking, which slows me down. Talking while I was working, I had to put in some adjustments. Oh, and you know what? Maybe that's still not quite right. I could go into a section view. I could and I know what I'm going to do, so I'm going to delete this one and have Revit reconnect it. I want to have, say I want to have these pieces. They're up too high. They're 10 foot. That's a weird offset. I want these to be exactly 10 foot. I can just change those just like that, and things usually reconnect. I can reconnect this one up. Now that one's straight. I can see these in plan view. I can, and the reason I changed the duct, let me show you the flex duct. I'm going to delete that. I can even connect the flex duct right up to this one, and because I set that one to be a tap, it should connect up nicely. It does its own taps. Now I can do the same thing over here. I can delete these pieces out of there, and you probably wouldn't do this, but you can. I can connect that one up. Looks like it worked. Look at it in 3D, and welcome to live live webinars, where it works perfectly when no one's watching. So this still does need some tweaking. Shoot, for the sake of time, I'm going to have to keep going. Otherwise, I would try this. I would create a system here. I would do it again, and with a little practice, taking a look at some settings. Because I didn't even look at the height of my air terminals. Oh, that was 8'9". These are 9 foot. This is at 9'3". My mechanical equipment's at 9'3". So I might have to just make a note to myself, so I know where do I want to run these ducts. Do they need to be 10 foot? Maybe I need to raise up that equipment. Actually, I do need to raise up this air terminal, or it's an air handling unit. So if I wasn't talking, if I wasn't demonstrating, I should have taken a look at that first. If I raise that up, then this should work out quite a bit better. Shoot. If I had a little more time, I would do that. And then it would work much better. So let me finish up with these slides. So we did the auto layouts. Let's do a quick summary. Chris, do you have a few things that you want to talk about? All right, I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to run back there. I'm going to do that again really quick, and we'll see if it'll work.
Sure. Just to give you guys a heads up, we are going to be closing early. I think it's next Wednesday to celebrate the holidays, and then we'll be back the following Monday. So,
yeah, we'll be out of the office. We'll be closed for a couple of days, so I'm deleting everything that you see
and
here.
another thing, we are there's a BIM users group, Buggy, that is going to kind of celebrate a joint Christmas party or a holiday party with the Boulder Denver Architects group, and that's a group that's been around for 4 years now. We have a holiday party at the Fox and the Hound. If you guys want more information about that, just email Jason. No, I'm just kidding. Email me, and I'll get you that information. It's cporter, P-O-R-T-E-R, at CAD-1.com. It is going to be at the Fox and the Hound in Broomfield from about 6 till 10 o'clock at night. And if it goes the same as it did last year, you have a chance at winning $100,000. So come by for that. $100,000 in prizes, up to. You have a chance to win $100,000.
Yes. So yeah,
it all depends on what it says on the scratch cards when I buy them.
Exactly.
So we do give away prizes. It is a great time. It's a chance for everybody to network and kind of just meet people from the industry, not only the architectural side, structural, MEP, everybody. So hit me up again. That's cporter at CAD-1.com.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So I'm doing this one more time. I moved my air terminal up so I have a little more room to work with. Oh, and would you look at that? My mains and branches are still set to be, I think, 10 foot. Anyway, they're set to be a little too low. So I need to take a look at my settings, which I can access while I'm in this layout mode, auto layout. I'm in the middle of my auto layout. I can look at these settings. It's only giving me supply air. Wow. I don't know why that got set to 10 foot 6. Let's do, or 10 foot 7 and 3. Let's just do 11 foot. Set my branches to be the same. I might have to go back to 10 to 11.6. Yeah, I'm going to have to take a look at some of the elevations in this. But while I'm here, so I changed those values while I was still in sketch mode. That's another great place where you can change it. Up at the top in the options bar, I have options for settings. I can also, let me go back to a floor plan, just to show you what this looks like. On the top left, I have a button, Solutions is on by default. I can also do Edit Layout. If I change that, notice that the options in my options bar go away, But I can come here and I can change these automatically, or not automatically. I can change these manually. So if I want to move one of these lines, I know, oh, you know what, I need a little more room in here. There's not enough room for an elbow. Maybe I want to change this one, left, right, up, and down. There's not a whole lot of things I want to change in this one. I can do that right here, where I can see, well, yeah, Revit's not quite smart enough. The computer's not smart enough to know that, I don't know, maybe, can I move? No, I can't move that. Maybe it put this, put that main too close to the air terminal, the air handling unit, and I know I need a little more room to put in my radiuses because I don't want to use mitered in there. It'd be too noisy. I can just come in here and just move these lines and just override what the computer had come up with. So that's another feature you want to take a look at. Once I've done that, I've manually fixed a few things. I can again hit Finish Layout, and I think this time I should have fewer errors. Okay, it didn't actually give me any warnings this time. That's much better. Take a look at it in 3D. That's a little better. I've still got a little bit of weirdness going on here, but that should be pretty easy to fix. I can just lower my air terminal. I think I could have come down 3 inches to make that one work. But let's say if I'd done this right the first time, even if I just ended up with that was my only error, well, Revit did 90% of the layout for me, once I had my settings right. Now that my settings are right, I can do all the other rooms now, do auto layouts for all the other rooms in this whole floor with just a few clicks. And even if I do have to come back and fix this one, I can delete that. I can delete the transitions. I can lower this a little bit. Let's do 10.3. I can bring it down. I can connect this up now. And there we go. So with one little tweak I had to make, this one is much better. And if you didn't notice, let me go really quickly. I can now add cap open ends. This is new in 2014. If I select the duct, and you want to select ones that are missing caps that have open ends, you cap open ends, and it put a cap on there. Just to see with one click. I could have done all of them at once. If I select all the ducts that need caps, I could have selected them all and then choose the cap open ends and do them all at once. So that's kind of a nice little feature in 2014. It's not a huge thing, but it can save you a little bit of time. Alrighty, jumping back to the slides. So to generate the auto layouts, I need to have duct systems, and I really want to have those settings correct. Otherwise, it just gets squirrely. Alrighty, so as you can see, there's just not an easy button, or as explained to me then, and this was actually years ago, there's still no do my job for me button. It still doesn't lay out, just doesn't magically do everything. That's why you still have to be the designer, you still have to be the engineer. However, this tool can be useful. For, even if it does half of your duct systems, well then it can do half of your duct layouts for you. It saves you half of that time. Even if it does like that last one, it did most of it. I still had to go and tweak it, but it still did most of that layout for me. So things to keep in mind before you do the automatic layout, generate layout, you need to have 3 things. HVAC system has to have the system there. The second thing, you really want to look at the settings, the conversion settings, the duct routing preferences, and make sure those are what you want Revit to generate with. And I added a third one. You probably want to have some practice in there. Take a little time, take a little patience to get it to work for you. But then once you've got it figured out, it can save you some time. So, any other questions? I see we didn't have a whole lot of questions.
Nope, that's about it. We are at our time. So,
okay, let me go really quickly and do a couple more slides. So hopefully your questions are a little more legitimate. Unfortunately, I'm going to jump over this one. So you'll have to come back to the recording, which we'll post on YouTube. You can get to those recordings from our website, because I'm going to jump ahead. Some things we have coming up. We have upcoming webinars. We have 3 of them on December 12th. Brand new has BIM Energy Analysis, Part 1, looking at ComTech and ResCheck. We also have Revit Radio on the 12th, and followed by Detailing in Revit, which is Part 3. This is a very popular webinar. Could be very useful. A little bit later, December 17th, Part 2 of BIM Energy Analysis. You can see more of those on CAD-1.com. Just some other events coming up. I think Chris mentioned this at the beginning. The first week of December, tech support will be at Autodesk University, brushing up on our skills. I know I'm doing a couple of labs, speaker lab assistant. Brian is doing, I forget how many he's doing, but there's Brian Haley is doing several.
If you guys have never been to Autodesk University, make sure you Google that, check it out. something you might want to ask your boss to go to. It's a phenomenal thing. So.
Yeah, it's really useful. Middle of December, we've got a Navisworks class coming up. December 20th is a certification day. If you want to get Revit certified, it's Revit Architecture technically. Next Revit MVP class is in January 7th. Alrighty, well, thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you guys for logging in. Bye.
All right, bye.